Have you ever wondered why some guys seem to navigate dating with ease, while other guys with the best intentions, really struggle to even be seen? Well, today we're going to break down a perspective from several online sources that really digs into the psychology of attraction to try and answer that exact question.
So to frame this whole discussion, let's look at two archetypes that the source material presents. First, you've got 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚c𝐭. He's the man who waits. He waits passively for the perfect woman to just appear. And when she finally does, he has zero experience and has no idea what to do. On the other side, you've got 𝐿fredo. He's the man who acts. He's out there building experience, learning through trial and error, so that when he does meet the right person, he's ready. This contrast right here is the engine behind the entire argument.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to kick things off with the good guy paradox. Then we'll break down what one source calls the player's 6 skills. After that, we'll explore why a little intensity can be so attractive, draw a really important line between strength and cruelty, and finally, wrap it all up by looking at the ultimate goal, gaining the power of choice.
Okay, first up, the good guy paradox. This really gets right to the heart of it all by asking that central question. Why do men who see themselves as kind, decent, and well-intentioned so often feel like they're completely invisible?
This quote, it just perfectly captures that contradiction that so many people feel, right? The sources we're looking at argue that this isn't some rare thing, it's a pattern, and they try to explain the hidden logic behind it, suggesting the answer isn't about right or wrong, but about instinct and psychology.
And this brings us right back to our guy 𝐂𝐨𝐽 and his mindset, which is framed as a total trap. It's all about waiting instead of acting, which just stops personal growth in its tracks. And that passivity, over time, can curdle into resentment. Resentment towards women and towards the 𝐿fredo types who are succeeding. But the critical mistake, according to these sources, is confusing being an agreeable, nice friend with actually creating genuine attraction.
So, if the 𝐂𝐨𝐽 mindset is the problem, what's the solution? Well, that brings us to our second section, the player's 6 skills. Now, let's be clear, the sources are careful to frame the term player not as a moral thing, but as a model for a set of skills that are all about self-development.
And this is a really crucial distinction. The argument isn't that you have to be a so-called player. The goal is to develop the potential to be one. It's about building the skills that create attraction, which then gives you the freedom to choose your partner, instead of just sitting around hoping you'll be chosen.
So what are these skills? Well, the source lays out 6 of them. Number 1 is salesmanship. Learning how to effectively present yourself. 2, overcoming shyness. 3, and this is a big one, building a tolerance for rejection. 4 is about attracting respect through social proof. Basically, being seen as someone who's valued by others. 5, aligning yourself with success by embodying valuable traits. And all of that finally leads to number 6, gaining the power of choice. And to really put that third skill, rejection tolerance, into perspective, check this out. One source claims an average guy might face 100 rejections for every single yes. Now look, the exact number isn't really the point. The point is the mindset you need to just keep going. Building up a tolerance for the word no is presented as a fundamental superpower, not just in dating, but in pretty much all of life.
Okay, so we've covered the what. Now let's get into the why. That brings us to section 3, why intensity attracts. This is where we shift from the practical skills to the deep-seated psychological and even biological reasons that the sources say are driving all of these dynamics.
So what in the world is emotional intensity? Well, the sources define it not as being cruel or toxic, but as the ability to create emotional contrast. It's the exact opposite of being predictable. It's about generating a dynamic experience, with emotional peaks and valleys, instead of just a flat, boring line of stability. And to back this idea up, one source points to a little neuroscience. It argues that our brain's reward system, our dopamine system, actually gets more fired up by uncertainty. When a reward is possible but not guaranteed, dopamine levels spike. This helps explain why a little bit of unpredictability can be way more compelling than constant, guaranteed comfort. And this really lays out the core difference. The predictable man, he offers comfort and safety, but he risks becoming routine, maybe even unexciting. The impactful man, on the other hand, uses that emotional intensity to create curiosity. He doesn't just offer comfort. He creates a memorable experience that makes the other person feel alive.
This brings us to a super critical point. It's easy to see how a concept like intensity could be misinterpreted, right? It can walk a fine line between creating excitement and just causing anxiety. And that is why our 4th section is all about a vital distinction the sources make. The goal is strength, not cruelty. The argument here is grounded in an evolutionary perspective. One source claims that on a really primal subconscious level, the question isn't is he a good guy, but rather, is he a strong guy? This suggests that our old survival instincts, the ones that value strength and resilience, still play a massive role in attraction today.
This table does a fantastic job of breaking down this nuanced idea. According to the sources, goodness without a real foundation of strength can actually be perceived as weakness or a fear of conflict. But when that same goodness is paired with strong personal boundaries and self-respect, it's seen as authority, as a sign of a strong internal structure. It's all about the context. So what does this strength actually look like in the real world? The sources list several key signals. It's about having your own non-negotiable goals. It's maintaining a solid, independent routine that doesn't just get thrown out the window for someone else. It means not abandoning your own purpose just to get validation. In short, it's about having a life that is already moving forward, with or without a partner.
In all of this, the skills, the mindset, the strength, it all leads to our final section, which ties it all together into one ultimate goal, the power of choice. This is presented as the true advantage, the real prize at the end of this whole process.
So the crucial takeaway is this. The entire framework is designed to move a person from a scarcity mindset, that feeling that you have no options, to a mindset of abundance. It's about giving yourself the power to choose a partner who is genuinely right for you.
Let's just compare the outcomes of these two mindsets. A scarcity mindset? That can lead you to accept the very first person who shows any interest, and to tolerate poor treatment simply because you're afraid of being alone. The choice mindset, though, it acts as a filter. It gives you the strength and the self-respect to walk away from relationships that are just not healthy or compatible.
And this quote from one of the sources just ties everything together perfectly. The argument is that goodness by itself is simply not enough. To be effective, to be attractive, it has to be paired with strength, and it has to be expressed with some intensity. Without those things, your good intentions risk being completely ineffective.
And that brings us to the final, fundamental question that these sources really pose to the reader. When it comes to your life, is the goal to passively wait around to be chosen, or is it to actively become the one who chooses?